Week 17, Miami Dolphins fans. How are we feeling today? It's Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network. We're here to preview the Dolphins Ravens, probably the most highly anticipated game for our team this year, and for good reason. I mean, we hit that stretch run. Cowboys, Ravens, Bills. I put out a poll on the YouTube community page and said, of these final three, which is going to be the most difficult? It was an overwhelming majority. I think it was like 70% of the response and said, yeah, it's week 17. It's the Baltimore Ravens. It's the final road game of the regular season. It's a team that's 12-3 that just put on an absolute clinic against one of the best teams in the NFC and the 49ers back on Christmas. This is going to be a test, but that's what we're here for. This is what we want our team, the position we want them to be in for, playing for playoff seedings, playing for potentially the number one overall seed. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're actually going to get to the playoff seedings and scenarios at the end of the video because a lot of you guys have probably already gone over that from your own curiosity. But we're talking top matchups, keys to victory. We're going to get to all of that stuff, previewing the Dolphins Ravens today. Before I jump into that, for this week's final preview and prediction video, I'm taking viewer questions. So anything you've got regarding the game, regarding the Dolphins, go ahead, drop them in the comments. But let's jump into the action. We're going to actually talk more about injury report and all that kind of stuff in that final preview and prediction video. I don't want to overreact to anything that we see on the Wednesday report. I'm recording this early Thursday morning. But as of right now, what I've heard is that Jalen Waddle, he's trying. He is attempting to push through. But like I said, as of Wednesday night, I believe it was, looking unlikely at this point in time. Now, obviously, why this is big? Well, one, I'm not breaking news to you. Jalen Waddle's pretty good. He just went over 1,000 yards for the third consecutive season in that game against the Cowboys. First player in Dolphins franchise history to do that. Yeah, we know how important that guy is right there. But why it's important, Robbie Chosen gets hurt in that game. Tyreek Hill is already banged up. So we've got Cedric Wilson, Braxton Berrios, Chase Claypool, and River Craycraft. And Craycraft was just a healthy scratch as well. Berrios has been working through some injuries. We've got Cedric Wilson, who's stepped up here and there, but at the end of the day, we all know that he's not producing like Jalen Waddle. So that's why this is huge. We'll have to see how it goes. Like I said, as of Wednesday night, looking very unlikely, but something for us to keep our eye on. Let's talk about another storyline that surrounds this game because, man, if you look at the MVP odds right now, and a lot was talked about when the Ravens were playing the 49ers and how Brock Purdy kind of buried his chances with 4 interceptions in that game. Well, following that game, Lamar Jackson is now the betting favorite at minus 175. The next favorite is Christian McCaffrey at plus 300. And then you've got Tua, Purdy, and Josh Allen, who are all around that plus 900 to 1,000 mark when it comes to betting odds. But you've got to imagine that the winner of this game, the quarterback of the winner of this game, is likely in the driver's seat. We know the MVP is a quarterback award. Now, there's possibility that, no one quarterback is statistically going crazy this year. It's not like a clear-cut number one seed already. So there's a chance that, they're like, let's just go with Christian McCaffrey or a non-quarterback this year. But if the voters stick with the way they've done things in the past, you've got to imagine the winning quarterback from this game is in the driver's seat, especially if you put up a statistical monster. And guess what? The last 2 times these teams played, both quarterbacks somewhat did that. And our guy got the best, throwing 400 plus yards, 6 touchdowns. You go out and you don't have to duplicate that performance, but you go out and you put out a crazy good performance. You take control of the number one seed for the time being. You are going to look pretty damn good as an MVP. Your candidacy for MVP is going to look pretty damn good too. Let's talk a little bit about some keys to victory on this one. I'm not breaking any news here. We know Lamar Jackson. We've seen Lamar Jackson. It seems like we play the Ravens every year. You as an NFL fan, you see enough. You know that he's the MVP favorite for a reason. And now he leads all rushing quarterbacks. Once again, breaking news. He does every year. 786 yards, most rushing yards for any quarterback in the NFL. And like I said, last year when we played him, it was week 2, week 3, early in the year. 9 carries, 119 yards, and a touchdown, including a 79-yard touchdown. It looked like the backbreaker at the point in time, but you know how that game came. Tua has one of his best games ever in the NFL. We come back and win it. Fantastic game, by the way. That one's just always been on my mind. But Lamar Jackson, he's not limited to just being a runner. That's kind of how his career started. but year in and year out, he's making steps as a passer. He's evolving as a passer as well. This year, he's got over 3,300 yards and 19 passing touchdowns. So not all that bad. But what I'm thinking about this team, and when I watch them, and especially when I watched them on that last game against the 49ers, this team, this offense is at its best. And when they're at their most dangerous, when they can play like the football version of street ball. And what I mean by that is the Baltimore Ravens, they're on script plays when things go as is, when they're hitting their timing routes, when everything is on script, they're still really good. I mean, they're what, 12-3 for a reason. But I personally think that their chunk yardage, their long touchdowns, their big plays, those game-changing plays can come when things break down and Lamar Jackson can create off script with him running, with him getting outside of the pocket, making a play downfield to a guy like Zay Flowers, their rookie wide receiver that's got some pretty good connections so far with Lamar Jackson. So trying to stop Lamar Jackson from creating, how do you do it? Right? I mean, that's what Vic Fangio is getting paid all that money for. But you got to be disciplined as a rusher. You got to stay within your rushing lanes. You can't let him create outside the pocket, create those chunk yardages through the air and the ground. But the nice thing about this is maybe a little bit of a dress rehearsal by being able to play Dak Prescott last week. Now, don't get that twisted in the sense that Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott are duplicates of each other, because they're not, but at least some of the same principles apply. Because if you look more into the numbers of what Dak does and this Cowboys offense is, they're another team that's really good, obviously, when things go on script. But when things go off script and Dak Prescott can get out of the pocket and create either with his legs or getting out of the pocket and then making a play down the field, he's actually statistically one of those better off-script quarterbacks. So we got a little bit of a dress rehearsal the week before, but it's the same thing over and over again. It's the edge rushers. You can't come just flying off the edge and run by the play and let Lamar Jackson step up and get by you. You got to get pressure from in the interior. So we're looking at Christian Wilkins, Raekwon Davis, Zach Sealer, the old salt and pepper, man. We need these guys to get that pressure up the middle as well. And then when you do get him, you got to wrap up. Because one, Lamar Jackson is strong. Two, he's slippery. Three, he's fast. And guess what? A guy like Bradley Chubb, who's having a great year, he's now at double-digit sacks this year. He should have more sacks. And that's because sometimes when he's got him, he doesn't quite get all the way wrapped up, and then the quarterback gets away. We saw it with Will Levis in that Titans games. We've seen it a couple of times this year. Lamar Jackson is going to be the biggest challenge yet when it comes to that. So you got to wrap up. You got to finish as well. I got a couple of top matchups that we'll go through kind of quickly on this one. My first one is Liam Eichenberg versus the Baltimore Ravens interior defensive lineman, Justin Madubuike. So he's obviously playing a defensive tackle. And we look at our guy, like a guy like Zach Sealer and Christian Wilkins. We're like, man, these guys are having great years. They're awesome. We wouldn't want to have football without them. That's Madubuike for them. 12 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss. Now, Liam Eichenberg did get, once again, a little bit almost of a dress rehearsal, because if you watch that game against the Cowboys, where was Micah Parsons lining up? Right tackle, left tackle, over the center. So he was getting some of Micah Parsons in that game. And yeah, Micah Parsons had his way here in times, and then Liam Eichenberg got his fair share of wins as well. So you got a little bit of a dress rehearsal, but they're different players. Micah Parsons is built in the way where he can fly off the edge. He can power rush you. He can drop back and be a bit more of a linebacker. Madubuike is a bigger frame guy, a bigger bodied guy that we'll see if Liam Eichenberg has that strength, has that power to be able to step up to. But that is going to be a huge matchup to watch against who could be a game changer up the middle for the Ravens. One other one I didn't want to ignore is these linebackers against our offensive line and our running backs, Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. Roquan Smith has 151 tackles. Patrick Queen has 119 tackles. These guys fly around the ball. They are always around the ball. They're always getting tackles. Ravens defense in general, 12th best against the run, so about NFL average, 6th against the pass. That's where their strength comes in. And if you look at where the Dolphins are, they're 5th in rushing yards per game. But we talk about these guys and they're tackling machines. And this narrative kind of got brought up to Mike McDaniel in his presser. I believe it was on Wednesday as well. And it was the whole idea of Baltimore is this physical team and the Dolphins are this finesse team. And if you think about historically, it's like, yeah, that is a slam dunk. But McDaniel's kind of rebuttal to that was, well, how are you? What? We're like 4th or 5th best against the run. We're 5th in rushing yards per game offensively. How can we not be physical if that's what the statistics are saying. So I get that aspect to a point, but at the same time, we're not plunging forward on many 3rd and 4th and 1s. We know who we are when we run the ball. We like to get to the edges. We like to speed. We like to do one cut and go. So there is going to be some physicality versus finesse in this game. And I'm curious to see how it plays out and how these linebackers react against the speed that we have at running back. I talked about the playoffs. I'll say this right away that I should have put some more stuff probably on the screen for this. So if you want, just Google search some Dolphins playoff scenarios. It might be easier. But for the sake of doing it for you guys in this video, just try to hang on. The win over the Cowboys clinched the playoff berth. We are in. We're in postseason already. But if we win the final 2, it's no doubt about it. We win the East. We get the number 1 seed in the AFC as well. Now, if we win one of 2, we're also guaranteed. A loss against the Ravens will kill any chances that we have for the number 1 seed. A loss to the Ravens, and if the Bills beat the Patriots this week, the AFC East will be determined in our Week 18 game against the Buffalo Bills. We can also clinch the AFC East if the Buffalo Bills lose to New England this week, Week 17. Now, in order to land the number 1 seed, if we beat Baltimore, so we beat Baltimore, we'd be the number 1 seed. But if we end up losing to Baltimore then in Week 18, we need the Ravens to lose their season finale, which is at home against the Steelers, and we would need the Browns to lose at least one of their final 2 games. They're home against the Jets on Thursday night, or they're at Cincinnati on Week 18. Now, if we go 1-1 over the final 2 games, the Dolphins can finish no worse in the AFC playoff picture than the 2 seed. But we already know that we cannot be the 7th seed because we are already assured of having a better record. One of the best 6 records in the conference is what I'm trying to say. We also cannot be the 4 seed in the playoffs because we've already clinched a better record than whoever wins the AFC South. So we can be anywhere from the 1, the 2, the 3, not the 4. We can be the 5 or the 6. We cannot be the 7th. Did you catch all that? Yeah, there was a lot going on there. That's why I said if you want a little bit more, either rewind this and listen again, or just do like a simple Google search. Something will come up. But that is what I have got for today, Dolphins fans. But like I said, I want to hear from you. Drop any questions you have for that final preview and prediction video in the comments. We'll get to as many as we can in that final preview and prediction video. That is my time for today, Dolphins fans. Until next time, Fins